So coming from the Netherlands, of course, you know, the last 10 years, I've been hearing about the ocean cleanup, of course, from Boyan Slat. And, but I was so happy to hear that there are more people on this planet worried about, you know, picking up the ocean plastics. So please introduce yourself a little bit and tell me about what does Plastic Odyssey do exactly. And if you want to use the slides to show the audience, please
Sure. We are not picking up the plastic from the ocean, so that's what differentiates us from ocean cleanup, for example. We are really focusing on how to avoid plastic entering the ocean. Because unfortunately, once the plastic is in the ocean, it's a bit too late. There is only 1% of the plastic floating at the surface. So the wide majority of plastic is really underneath. And actually, that's something that scientists call the mystery of plastic. We know there's a lot of plastic in the ocean. It's about 200 million tons, but we don't know where it is. We don't know precisely where it is, because when we look for it, when we measure the plastic at the surface of the ocean, we realize that there is only 1% left. So it's still a mystery, but what we know is that we cannot clean up the pollution from the ocean, so still it's good to do that, in fact, but it will represent 1% at the end. So we're really trying to stop plastic entering the ocean, and for that we have two approaches at the same time: cleaning up the past, meaning not cleaning up the ocean, but recycling the waste that is ashore in cities and is going slowly in the ocean. So it's like a heritage of plastic waste we have today, because the humanity has produced 6 billion tons of plastic, and we still have 5 billion tons to treat. So we have this heritage of plastic that we need to do. We need to recycle, or we need to treat somehow. But we also need to reduce the use of plastic, and that's the Build the Future part of Plastic Odyssey, where we try to change behaviors towards less consumption and alternatives to plastic.
Okay. Please tell us what we see here.
And so we are doing that thanks to a beautiful tool, because we have this 40 meters long research vessel that has been recycled, because she's 45 years, and a bit more actually, even maybe 48. And she's been refitted, so this vessel has been completely transformed into a recycling laboratory. And what we can see here is the Stromboli volcano. So it was just at the beginning of the expedition in October.
Where was this?
In Italy, Stromboli.
Okay. Okay.
So it was like the 1st of October, we started from Marseille, and then we went to Lebanon, which was the first stopover. Then we went around the Mediterranean coast, reaching Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, and then going to West Africa, Senegal, Guinea, Cape Verde. And we've just crossed the Atlantic. So now the ship is in between Brazil and French Guiana for the rest of the mission. So the idea is to stop in the 30 most polluted countries in Africa, South America, and Asia, and have action with local communities, entrepreneurs, but also general public and children, to really recycle the plastic, but also raise awareness to reduce the use.
Maybe you can show also, because you were showing me on a picture, what those machines look like.
So yeah, I think I have later, but basically we have at the aft of the ship, you can see there are different machines to transform the waste into a finished product. So that's our expertise, is to take something that has no value. So usually what we call low value plastic bags, packaging, all this kind of plastic that is left because it has no value. And simple machine, low tech, to shred the plastic, to extrude, so meaning like to melt it, and then to shape it somehow into a tile for pavement, or tile for the roofs, plastic lumbers, product that can be used locally and then can answer a local need, a local market. So really the aim we have is to launch social businesses, helping entrepreneurs to launch micro factories, and we show you at the end what kind of micro factories we are building. But really it's giving all the tools to entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, to recycle plastic. And I can actually show you some pictures, because this is one part of the expedition is sharing the knowledge, but there is a big part of course, of exploring. It's an expedition, it's an exploration vessel. So we're going on the field to explore and discover initiatives and amazing entrepreneurs that already recycle plastic. And so we have an example. So that was the first stopover in Lebanon. What you can see is the landfill of Tripoli, north of Lebanon. You can see it's right by the sea. So when there is a storm, everything goes into the ocean. And so that's the problem part. And the solution part, we met quite a lot of entrepreneurs, but one that really touched me is Osman Afifi. And this guy is doing a crazy, very amazing job in the heart of the refugee camp, Shatila refugee camp in Beirut. And he's recycling, so he's helping 100 youth, is paying them to collect plastic in the refugee camp. And he's turning this plastic into pipes. You can see the pipes for water, fresh water, and also electrical wires in the refugee camp. And so it's like economically viable. It's transforming this waste into pipes. We have also a beautiful example in Egypt.
Yeah,
that was the next stop. So this one is quite famous. That's the Zabalin community. It's a community of recyclers, but it represents 70,000 people making a living from the waste of Kairos people. And what is crazy is that they do door-to-door collection. So they ring at the door, they collect not only plastic, not only the recyclable, they collect everything. They collect the food waste with all the food, like food waste and stuff like that. And they manage to have an economy, viable economy, and they are not paid for that. Usually, cities pay for waste collection, waste management. They are not paid for that. And what they do, so they open up the waste bags, then they sort the food waste, they feed pigs, they feed animals, and so they sell the meat afterwards, so that's an economy.
Wow.
And then the rest, plastic, cardboard, everything is recycled. There is a family that sort plastic, a family that shred it, a family that wash it, and everyone has a role in the value chain of plastic. And it's 70,000 people living and treating 60% of the waste of Kairos. And they can recycle everything, but the rest, like the last third of plastic they cannot recycle, is just because it's a very poor area, so the waste are not valuable enough, but they could technically recycle everything, 100% of the waste. You can imagine the difference between what they are doing and what we are doing in Europe, where we can recycle maybe, I don't know, 20%, and it costs a lot of money because we have to pay trucks and stuff like that. So you can imagine those guys, they manage to have a full economy because they have this very particular situation.
And you were also talking about the Egyptian fishermen. That's another example, correct?
Exactly. That was the other good example in Egypt. We met people. Actually, I think they are here. It's called the NGO is Very Nile. So you can see it's a small island on the Nile River. And what they are doing, they started to pay fishermen. So instead of fishing fish, they fish plastic. And actually, they make more money fishing plastic bottles than fish. So they started to fish plastic bottles to make a living. And what they do then, they recycle it, so they bale it, and they sell it for textile, to the textile industry, to have recycled fibers.
Yeah, because I think you also had a picture of that, right? Of the tiles.
So that was like that's initiative they recycle into textile, the plastic bottles. One also was in Morocco. What they are doing is quite funny. They collect only on beaches, and they use camel to transport the plastic, to transport these big bags of plastic, because obviously it's quite complicated to go and collect, and it costs a lot of money. And so they they collect like the trucks of the deserts, and that's how they manage to have also an economy recycling textile, plastic bottles into textile. I have quite a lot, but I can show you briefly because I think we don't have much time.
Absolutely.
That's what you can see here is Dakar. So the picture is beautiful. It's very colorful, but it's plastic waste actually everywhere. That's just around the coast like that. And I was talking with fishermen, and they were saying, like there are 3,000 fishing boats in Senegal, and every day we fish plastic. And I was there, and the net was full of plastic. It was crazy. And what they do usually, they throw it back into the sea because they don't know what to do with it. And at the same time, they make traditional paddle, and they cut big trees to make these paddles. And the guy was saying, it was like the dean of the fishermen, local fishermen, and he was saying, it's crazy because we are cutting trees, and obviously was aware of the impact that can have deforestation, and at the same time we are fishing plastic. So why don't we try to make a paddle out of plastic waste? And that's what we made a prototype on board the vessel, because we have a full laboratory on board the vessel. So we went back and we designed and prototyped out of plastic waste a paddle, and then we went at sea on a small fishing boat testing the paddle with the fishermen. So that was also a good way to recycle plastic, and can represent also a market and a good way to recycle for them the plastic.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, as I told you, I spent 3 years almost in Costa Rica, and I'm on the board of the 5-minute beach cleanup. But it's so wonderful to see what they do there. I mean, there's a lot of education in the country, but they make surfboards and bathing suits and slippers and everything. But it's like exactly what you say. Like once or twice a year, there's a big, all the rivers start flooding, and then all the plastics come onto the beach. But there's so much local activity, and then this is what I recognize in those countries that you are active.
Exactly, another one. So that was in Capo Verde when we went to a deserted island of Santa Lucia, famous for two things: turtle nesting and plastic. And you can see how bad this is. It's everywhere. It's full of plastic pollution, and the turtles are coming to. That's what we found when we came. So they are. I don't know why these turtles die actually, but what is interesting is that the gender of the turtles. So when they nest in the sand, the gender of the turtle, whether they are male or female, depends on the temperature of the sand. So I think it's above 29 degrees or under 29 degrees. And what happens is that because of the plastic covering the sand, the temperature changes. And so you have only male or only female, I can't remember, but you don't have the same repartition of, you don't have a gender equality in the future generation of turtles, which is a big problem because then they cannot reproduce anymore. So that was also a very surprising thing we discovered on this island with the local NGOs. So what we are trying to do there, as it's a marine protected area, we cannot install something. So we're trying to figure out a way to collect this plastic and to bring it back to the main island of Mindelo to install small micro factories and recycle the plastic from there.
Wow. Wonderful.
And I can actually show you.
Oh yeah, this is interesting.
So show you this so that you have a better idea of what it looks like. So in parallel of the expedition and the boat that is really a demonstrator, we are able to gather a community of entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, and train them on machines, on plastic recycling. We have developed these kind of micro factories inside containers, maritime containers. So inside this factory, you have all the machines to take a waste, shred it, melt it. That's an extruder, so it can melt the plastic. And then we are able to put this paste into a mold and basically make this kind of paving blocks for roads and pavements. And it's very interesting because everywhere in Africa, especially in Africa, you have a real need for pavement blocks because the roads are not paved or not everywhere. And so mayors of cities, they are really interesting in that. And you can imagine, like, on Wednesday you have the market. At the end of the market, it's like full of plastic.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you collect, and then the week after, you have 5 meters more of pavement. So that's also the idea behind those kind of micro factories.
Yeah, I love it. Well, what I remember from our talk is that you said there's mystery of plastic, 200 million tons in the ocean. That really almost freaked me out. So where is the plastic? I mean, because you said it's not at the surface of the ocean, but it's much deeper. Can you maybe explain that?
So it's probably at the bottom of the ocean, and also degrades into microparticles. And so where we can really see plastic, because we're going around the world, so we are sailing, we cross oceans, we never see a lot of plastic at the surface. But when we go in countries with a lack of waste management system, then we can have like big landfills. Or in Guinea, where this container, so just behind the container, just behind the factory, there is a river Lee, and it was full of plastic when we were there, and we were asking the neighbors, why is this plastic here? Like, is it not annoying for you to have all this plastic here just behind your backyard? And they were saying, yeah, it's very terrible, it's stinking, the mosquitoes, it's very bad, but fortunately, in few months, like with the rain coming, everything will be removed.
That's what happens.
Magically. And so, but they didn't know where it was going. And actually it was going to the ocean, like 30 kilometers below. So you can really see the impact, in cities and the result in the ocean afterwards. But people don't realize most of the time that, because they are far away from the ocean. And so also another thing we do is raising awareness to avoid the consumption of plastic. That's the two sides of the coins. We need to recycle plastic, that's one thing, but we also need to reduce the use of plastic. And for that, it's mostly about trying to change behaviors, trying to educate also children. So each country, we have 500, 700 children coming on board, discovering all the alternatives, because all the crew lives without plastic. Well, I mean, we try, that's what we try to reach, to have a life without plastic on board. So with the kitchen and bathroom and everything, water, we are working with a startup also here in Novaya, filtering the water on board to have drinkable water and reusable bottles. So there are many alternatives that can be showcased and inspired future generation, but also inspire general public to change habit, and also to stop all these mountains of plastic we see everywhere.
Well, Simon, thank you so much. And I also want to say, I think it's beautiful how you're wearing the sponsors of Plastic Odyssey on your shirt, and Carine and L'Occitane and Matmut, and so and you also were part of the photography. Well, give him a round of applause, because I think this is the future.
Thanks.